This conference will now be recorded.
Anupama ma'am. Anupama ma'am.
Achi Mandeep, I'm here only.
Good afternoon, Dr. Anupama Sharma.
Good afternoon, Mandeep.
This is Mandeep Kaur Khosa, Faculty of Guru Nanak Dev Engineering College. It's my pleasure to welcome you for this session. Dr. Anupama Sharma will be talking later on the topic Preparing Effective Research Proposal. Dr. Anupama Sharma has done her PhD in Faculty of Engineering and Technology. She had done her MBA in Finance from Punjab University, Chandigarh. She had been awarded as a gold medalist in MBA. She had done her PG diploma in statistics, and there also she had been awarded as gold medalist from Punjab University, Chandigarh. She had done diploma in French from Ministry of Educational National Republic France. Dr. Anupama Sharma has a great experience as she has published in national and international journals paper. She had been working and associated with Punjab University since 1999, and she has been working as a professor in chemical engineering. She had many contributions, academic contributions. She had been working as a coordinator in Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, TCUP 2 and TCUP 3. She is also a coordinator of BRS 1 Special Assistant Program, SAP University Grant Commission, New Delhi. She is working as a member co-committee, Center for Potential for Excellence on Nanotechnology, Nanocomposite and the Application, a UGC project for Punjab University. She was a former secretary of Asian Polymer Association. We welcome you, ma'am, for the session.
Thank you, Mandeep. Can you give me the right so that I can share my PPT?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you have been given the rights. You can upload your presentation.
Mhm. Where should I do this? It's not showing any.
Ma'am, you might be having a screen sharing option
Yeah, it is
below.
showing crossed. It's not enabled.
Just click on that, ma'am.
Oh, just a second. But um, no, it is still not enabled.
Just a minute, ma'am. Ma'am, please check your network connection. Maybe network connection is not there. Poor
Oh, my
network
network is
connection.
quite fast. No, it is like if you are hearing my voice, the network connection is good. But whenever I'm clicking this, it says use accessibility features. Okay, just a second. Okay, just let me. No.
Ma'am, then leave the session and join again.
Okay, okay. This
This
thing.
conference will now be recorded.
Can you put it on the showing mode, like on the display mode?
Yes, ma'am. Doing just a minute.
Hmm.
Done,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry for the whole.
Not an
goof
issue,
up.
ma'am. Not an issue.
I don't know. There's some accessibility issue in my laptop, and both of the laptops the same thing. It's the
Okay,
same.
not an
It's
issue.
like the go-to thing. It has never happened with WebEx or other platforms. I don't know.
These are technological barriers, ma'am, that we are facing nowadays. Not an issue, ma'am.
Thank you for a nice my nice introduction. I've recently joined as Dean Luminary Relations in Punjab University. Like 4 5 days back,
Okay,
I've joined as Dean Alumni.
okay.
So that was not
Congratulations
mentioned
for
in the. Thank you so much.
not
So,
updated for that.
pardon?
We were not updated for that, ma'am.
Yes,
But in your tomorrow introduction, we'll add that then.
no problem at all. No problem at all. But I think one thing I want to mention, like I'm very passionate about doing a lot of. I'm passionate about my research, and
Okay.
for doing research in science, like those, I think many of you are from science. You need money because for all
Yes.
chemicals, for glassware, for testing, for instruments. So without money, it is not possible. And being in government institution, we are all aware that university funding is minimum. So the
Yeah.
amount of funding the university or the institute gives, it's not sufficient enough to actually do any research. It's a very meager amount, which we are not able to even procure the chemicals out of it. So rest apart the testing and the other budget which is required. So writing like that for that we need some projects. So my topic is basically to how to write a research project. If you see my resume, I have done around 11 projects. Still 5 projects are running, and I keep on constantly writing the projects because although the funding nowadays has become quite strict, the checklist is very stringent. And the funding agency, almost all the funding agency, like when I joined this department in 1999, started writing research proposals 2 to 3 after I joined, because I needed money for my research, my PhD also. So I wrote the first project from which I did my PhD. So I needed money at that time, and that at that time, around in maybe 2000, 2003, 4, getting a grant was very easy. We just used to write and get it. The struggle was not that much, which now we are facing. So you have to write a competitive project. Nowadays, the funding agencies, and especially coming with the recent government, they are very strict that you have to show some application point. Otherwise, you don't. For pure basic science research, you don't get money. So our basic our aim today will be on how to writing research proposals with a logical framework, how to write effective research proposals. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now, what is a proposal? Now, it is obviously it's a very important document, because you are for anything, like if it is a research proposal or any other proposal. Suppose you have to send to your head if you want to start a course, and you have to present that proposal to your vice chancellor. That's again a proposal. So your proposal, I mean, is an important document. And in case of a project, the funding your the this decision of funding agency, whether to give you finance or not to give the project, that is totally based. So if it's an effective proposal, the funding agency will think twice before not giving that grant. So you have to make it, you have to put in a lot of planning, a lot of thought process should go into the proposal to make it an effective proposal. So it should show that yes, it is a thoughtful a lot of thoughtful planning has gone into the proposal. Next, please. And for planning, you should for pre-planning is required, and you should go, you to see all your stakeholder analysis should be done. Like for example, I'm writing a project, a simple project in which I'm studying the water pollution status in Punjab. So I have to see what who all are the stakeholders which are involved, for this particular idea. Like how like all the industries are also involved, because they are the polluters. The local public is involved because they are consuming that polluted water. The research agencies are involved because they are working on it. The newspapers are involved, newspapers, or I say media is involved, because they are publicizing or hiding these information. So you have to see uh, a proper stakeholder analysis should be done before you write a project, and it should be pre-planned uh, before you think of an idea. And you should look for all possible funding sources and local resources. Possible funding, we'll come to this later, what I mean by possible funding. Because possible funding is it decides like to which funding agency you should approach, depending upon the kind of project I am writing. So your funding agency is not like you just I'm writing some social science project and I approach DST, or I'm writing a science project, I should approach ICCR. It's just not like that. So depending upon the idea which is being developed, and you decide about which funding agency you should go to. And all the local resources means, like if you are working in a university, from where you can arrange the funding within the university, whether your departmental grants are available or the university grants are available, or you have some startup fund, or you have some tech funding. So you have to see the local resources also, and what you learn from this will point out in the direction of the best way to help the project approach or the project logic. Because this will only help you, because the whole idea, how do you go about the project, means what, depending upon the funding agency, depending upon the resources available. Because like, if suppose you have an idea, a big idea in mind, and you want, for that idea, particular idea, you need a funding of 7 crore. So for that, you cannot approach a simple funding agency like CSIR, because that will not be suffice, that they do not fund such big projects. So deciding about like matching what kind of project you are writing and which funding agency you should approach, that should match. You should do a proper analysis, so that based upon that, that will decide your approach of the project or your project logic. Next, please. And how do you identify the project idea? Now, project, depending upon, my first is like, I'm expert in this field, so I'm not I'm expert in engineering. I'm working on water pollution management, or I'm working on polymers. So I will always work in that field, because my expertise is in that field. I cannot just jump upon some biological research, or I cannot jump upon like medical research. So depending upon my expertise, I will always look for the funding agency. And then what is the community demand? Although yes, this is my area, my area of expertise, but do the community require this, like my expertise is any use to the community or not? Or I identify like what the community actually, what the society needs from me, and out of that I find out what my expertise is, and then I match the two, and then I find out like, yes, this idea can be working. For example, I talked about water pollution. So if you see in Punjab, there's a high content of arsenic and uranium, heavy metal ions in water. So that is the community demand, that yes, the community needs that we should work upon solving this problem. So that is the community demand, and I have an expertise where I can use some chemical method or some physical methods to work upon this particular problem. So these two match. And then the third thing is available resources. I plan something which is a very big, it's just an absurd idea comes to my mind overnight, and I start writing a project. And then when I go for the project, I cannot like ask for from the scratch, this I need this much money and you give me this much money. No, you have to see what are the resources which are already available to me, and what is which is lacking, what more I require. So because like I don't have a working lab with me, and I go with for a project which is a huge project, so the funding agency will always ask me, like, you don't have even a working lab space with you, and how will you implement such a big project? So this question definitely comes into like this is the question which the funding agency will ask me. So I have to see, like, I have I have 4 5 instruments with me, but I see like for this project these are required, but something else is also required, some additional things are required. So I can always approach the funding agency with a stronger foot, that yes, I have these resources and I want this further to be added in my lab. So all these three things, when I combine together, I make a project. Next, please. Now, the good ideas, like what are good ideas? It should be a genuine problem that you can face it. Means it's not absurd, as I said, it should not be it should be a workable idea, it should be a genuine problem. It's not like you just formulate anything which comes in your mind. You should, that is why we require that you should like in the previous slide I said, what is the community demand, and out of that demand, if you can formulate a genuine problem, that, and a solvable problem. So then you identify that this, yes, this is the idea I can work upon. And then it's two-step process. First, define your project thoroughly and using a participatory approach. Participatory approach means you discuss with your peers, you discuss with your students, you discuss with your some experts, and then you brainstorm the ideas, and then you decide upon, yes, I need to work upon work upon this. And then adapt your project proposal according to the targeted funding agency. I previous slide. You have to target it according to the funding agency. This is it. So because like if I'm writing a biological research project, I am writing something in biotechnology, so I should approach Department of Biotechnology. If I'm writing something in social science, I should approach ICSSR. If I'm writing a applied science project, I should approach DST. If I'm working on societal needs, I should approach SEED. So it depends upon what kind of project you have, and then you give that, make according to the targeted funding agency. Suppose and because every funding agency is also important, because every funding agency has a set format, and according to that you have to adapt, because some funding agency they demand a project which is more application oriented. Some funding agency require projects which are more we are based on societal needs. Some funding agency may require a totally a basic science project. Some funding agency required a patentable ideas. So it depends upon which kind of funding you are seeking for the project. So your whole project is customized according to that funding agency. And then use a logical framework, that is a tool to design a project in a systematic and logical way that we will study as we go down in more in the presentation. Next, please. You can go to the next one. And then, right, I pointed out earlier, finding the right source. That is the most important aspect. Like I have ideas. Like I know number of people uh, in France, but and they want to work with me, and I want to work. We want to work collaboratively in number of projects. We have lot of ideas, but then how do we get the funding? Okay, having an idea, having students, it's good, but whom should I approach for funding? Because to share the ideas, to share the resources, we need, just a second, जसप्रीत मैं करती हूँ ज्वाइन बेटा, करती हूँ, सॉरी मैं भूल ही गई. So you have to so you have, like I told you, DST we look for for science projects, DBT for biotechnology project, for social science project we look for ICSSR. And then if there are different lot of funding agencies, we'll discuss them tomorrow, which we can approach, because I have a lecture tomorrow that's basically on how to get the funding, with which funding agency we should approach. Like if I want to apply for say for an international project, so which funding agency should I approach? So it depending upon which kind of project you have, you target your funding agency. And how does each funding agency evaluate project proposal? Like as I told you, every funding agency is looking for something specific, because like DST is looking for mainly science projects which have some application oriented this thing, and then DBT is looking for uh, some patentable projects. So it depends upon which kind of funding agency is involved. I make, and how, what is the evaluation procedure? Because every funding agency has an different evaluation procedure. Like if I approve, if I go to CSIR, I have a committee of 3 members. If I go to DST, it's a more rigorous evaluation process. So it's a rigorous evaluation process. So it depends upon how the funding agency evaluate the proposal. So we should decide about the funding resources. Which is, you should decide about the project. Next, please. Now, when you write, you should remember these points. That is, your proposal is often the only way for funding agency to choose or reject the projects. Means once, because like most of the funding agencies, almost all of them, when your proposal goes, they will evaluate the proposal, and once it goes through the evaluation process, then they will call you for presentation. So your face is your proposal. So like initially they don't not they never call you for a presentation. So that means your whether you will get the project or you'll it will be rejected, it totally depends upon the proposal. Once the proposal goes through, then they, because that is the way when they consider you for the next stage. So it should be perfectly designed so that at least it should pass through, because like you may be an expert, but your expertise need to be documented in that proposal, so that once it goes, it should be chosen. And write a proposal only when your project idea is already well thought of. Like as I told you, it should not be some absurd idea overnight it came to your mind and you just write a proposal. Because sometimes, most of the times, not like not some in sciences, in sciences we have seen that we do write projects, and we give some ideas, we get some ideas, like I think of mixing A or B to make C, but it may not work in the lab. So I write a proposal because I had this idea, and I write to the funding agency. But after some time, like when I start working on that project idea, I found that this is not working, it's not workable, I'm not getting the results which I thought of. So it should not be like that, because it's not just getting money, it is also implementing the project. And because after 1 year, after 2 years, you have to give the progress report to the funding agency. So it should be a well thought project idea. You should some little bit work on that idea, and then you should write a project. And that in that way, you, or when you go for presentation, it will be you are on a stronger foot when you are presenting your idea. And like obviously I said, fit to the funding agency's guidelines. It should be according to the format given by the funding agency. It's not you should not make your own format. Next, please. And package your project into an attractive proposal. Means uh, on the face of it, it should be, yes, this is a good proposal, it should be like that. And it should be a logical thread, means a logical sequence should be there, that it should a properly designed background, and depending upon the background you formulate the problem. Like again, I'll give my example. I'm working on two major problems in Punjab, that is the stubble burning problem and the water pollution problem. So, uh, like these are the main problems. So this is the background. Background is like the farmers, they burn the stubble, and they use. Oh my God, what happened? I'm sorry, I just had a. So, like the background is a lot of the farmers are using a lot of chemicals, lot of pesticides, lot of herbicides in their in the farms, and because of that, that leach into the groundwater and creating a lot of water problems. So we have, this is the background, and out of that, the problem is the existence of heavy metal ions in water, and lot of pollution because of the burning of stubble. That is a problem. So I have, from the background, I have identified the problem. and then go for the solution. What can be the possible solution and what can be the possible economic solution? Some very expensive. It should be all funding agency. They look for the sustainability of the solution which you are proposing. So this is the logical sequence you should follow. Just a second. You should follow that. First identify the background, and that's if you'll see, like most of the funding agency, good funding agencies like DST, CSIR, DBT, ICSR, all these funding agencies, they have these columns. Like they have the background column, the problem, solutions, sustainability. They ask all these questions in their format. So you should go for this logical sequence and ensure the matchup between the problems, outcomes, and the means. Right? So you should, the problems, yes, you have the solutions you have suggested, what outcomes it will give, and then what the means to achieve these outcomes. So there should be a coherence between, there should be a match between all these three things. And yes, funding agencies, they are looking for a logical framework approach. Next, please. And this is just a logical checklist before you go for submitting the project. You should check whether you have not left a problem unsolved. For example, like recently we were working on removing we were working on removing uh, mercury from groundwater. And then while working on this problem, we found across that some nanoparticles, cadmium sulfide nanoparticles could have will solve this problem of removal of mercury. Some we can do some functionalization, and then we can use them for treatment for removal of mercury. But okay, it went very well and we got very good results. But when we submitted the proposal, the main question asked by the reviewer was, yes, you are removing mercury, which is a major problem in water. It causes a lot of pollution, a lot of diseases. But by doing so, although you are removing mercury, but you are adding some other nanoparticles, the cadmium sulfide nanoparticles, which again are heavy metal. We never thought of that. So this came into light when we went for the presentation. So that is, by solving one problem, you are solving one problem, but you are adding another. Or you may solve, there may be a combination of problem, but you solve one and then you leave other. So it should not be like that. It should be a comprehensive, you should present a comprehensive solution. So it should not leave any problem unsolved. Don't identify outcomes that do not correspond to a problem. So it's why we should not identify those outcomes. Like as I told in the previous slide, it should be always, the outcome should be related to some problem, and you should relate it to means. And then don't identify outcomes for which you don't have a solution. That is the most important thing. You do not give that this is the problem, this is the problem. You identify 10 problems, and when you are writing a proposal, you are just giving solution to one. There you are caught. Like, you have identified so many problems, but why actually you are, just be silent on that. You don't need to pinpoint each and every problem. You just focus on the problem you are proposing the solution for which you are proposing the solution, right? And then don't propose activity that are not related to problems and outcomes. So you should not propose activities which are, but it means you may in a project you may have to do lot of activities, you may have to take lot of activities, but don't like for example your activities may, because if you are working in a university, you may have to struggle with the grant and permission department, or your own department, or your own technical committees. So these are, although these activities are there in the project, but you do not identify or you do not propose these activities in the project, because they are not related to your problems, neither are they related to your problems and nor outcomes. I don't know why I'm getting disconnected again and again. I'm sorry for that. I don't know why. So don't list human resources that don't match the outcome you aim to achieve. Right? List human resources means, in the sense, uh, you when you are working on a project, you have lot of resources which are being given to you by the university, but these are tacket resources. You don't have to, until and unless asked by the funding agency, you don't need to write them in the project. Next, please. And then editing and layout. Pay attention to the language. Don't use a very hi-fi language. I've seen, like, because of the you have advantage of technology. All the youngsters, they have advantage of technology. What they do is, I'm reviewing so many projects. I'm reviewing so many papers. What the student do is they just right click, take the synonym from the word and put it there. They do not know whether that word actually fits into that sentence or not. Don't do that. Write in very simple language what you, that is, because whatever you are writing on your own, that conveys it better, rather than using some hi-fi and non-technical language. That don't go for that. Use simple language. Use future tense, yes, because you are proposing a thing. You're not doing anything, you are proposing a thing. And then be concise and logical. Avoid spelling mistakes. Find a catchy title, like, which should, catchy title in the sense, it should be focused, like it should give your, the title should represent, we'll come to it detail later. Your title should be a summary of, like, once anybody sees your title, like see your title, it should give an idea about what the project is like, right? And then pay attention to the layout of or the presentation. Use your organization logo on the first page, headers and footers. Use uh, clear titles and paragraphs. Break the monotony, in the sense, don't have long paragraphs, and uh, try to be more, give more figures, because that always helps, and it breaks the monotony. Use figures in the sense, like, if you are presenting a methodology for a project, so rather than writing that whole methodology for 2 or 3 pages, if you write in simple, you make block diagrams, and give the conditions, or the steps, that will be easier to understand, and that will give you always an edge over writing those whole big paragraphs. Then add tables of content initially, when once you start the project, write table of that gives a feeling that you are more organized. So that is all that, these, although these are very small things, but they make a very long impact on the reviewer, because if you have given a table of content in the starting of the project, and then proper everything is, the layout is very clear, so that sense of feeling, yes, this person who has written the project is very organized. So he or she can handle the things better. And then print on a standard format. That's just the simple thing. Next, please. Hope I'm not going very fast. Navdeep,
And it's all right.
please stop me wherever you want. Like, if you want to ask any question, you can stop me anytime. Because you should not wait for the end to, like, wherever you feel there's a question, you can please ask. Next slide, please. And this is the proposal structure. Generally, this is the proposal, this is the structure, these are the heads under which the funding agencies, they ask you the project. Then first is the executive summary, organization description, project background, project statement, problem statement, goals and objectives, beneficiaries, and then proposed methodology, budget, monitoring and evaluation, sustainability, and annexure. These are the mainly the points where the project, where the proposal, the structure goes like. First is the executive summary. Next, please. Can you go to the next, please? Next slide, please. Hmm. Now, executive summary. It basically this is a very tricky thing to write the executive summary. This is the most important thing because this is the first thing which catches the attention of the reviewer. This should include everything actually. The problem also, the methodology also, the background, starting from the background, the problem, the methodology, and the outcomes. So this has to be, it's very tricky to write the executive summary, and it's always, I advise that although this is the first in the project, but it should be written in the last. It is my experience, once you write the complete project, then you should write the summary, because by that time you have written the project, you are clear about your what was the problem, how did you formulate the problem, and how did you decide about the objectives. So you will get an idea that yes, uh, then once you have the complete idea of the project, then you can write this executive summary better as compared to um, writing it in the first step. And why it is important? Because it is the first part that is read. Because like sometimes if the reviewers, they don't feel that the project is like, if it's not written nicely, then the project is straight away rejected. Like they do not go just after reading the executive summary, they go to the next thing. They don't see further anything else. So sometimes like on the only this part is read, as I told you. They don't go, because if it is not an effective summary, if it is not impresses the reviewer, they will not go to the next step. And it can be used for funding agency to communicate to others about your project. Most of the projects, like international projects, if you see, they ask you these two separate files. One is the executive summary and then detailed project proposal. So the executive summary is asked, probably, like they always ask you initially, like they will always ask you initially to give the executive summary of the proposal, maybe a 2-page summary. And then once it goes to the evaluation project and it is approved, all the evaluators, they approved, then they will ask you the complete project proposal. Because like they don't want to go through the reviewers to go through the whole project and then reject it. And that saves my time and their time, both, like time at both the ends. So that's why this is a very important thing to be written. Next. And like I told you, what do you propose to do, where it has to be done, why it has to be done, for who are the beneficiaries of this project, with whom you are collaborating, who all are involved in that, and for how long are you involved in that. So everything is included in this executive summary. Like the what you propose means what is the where what is the problem and how you are working on that, where it is to be done, which who is the lead scientist, who are the collaborating scientists, and why you are doing that. So what is the sustainability of everything it should be included in the executive summary. Next, please. As I told you, it is write it last. As told you, because it has to be, it has, you can only, like in a thesis, you only summarize once you have written the whole thesis. So it's like that. Although it is in the project, it is given, it's the first thing which is asked, but it should be written at the last, and do it very carefully. Keep it short. Don't write kahaniya like big 2-3 pages. That is not a summary. That becomes a, then why should anybody see your summary? You can see your proposal. Okay, and don't cut and paste. And don't cut and paste here. It means don't cut and paste from your proposal, not even not outside, but also from your proposal. Don't cut it, like then, like the one person who is reading your project will obviously make it out that you have cut paste the things. If you try to, like if it's written in a paragraph, try to summarize it in a single line in the proposal, in the summary. Next, please. And then presentation of the organization, like because who is the PI and where the PI is working. The purpose basically it established a credibility and image of a well-managed organization. Here, the organization can means the person also, the PI also, or the PI or co-PI involved. So because that is important, because the how you present, because in case you are writing the first proposal, so the always there's an apprehension whether you will be able to complete the project or not. So that is the purpose, whether the reviewers will see whether you have established a research record, whether you have done any project in previously or not. So there are a lot of things which need to be done to establish the credibility of the proposer in this area. And tips should not be too long. And if you're approaching a new funding agency, attach in the appendix and organization brochure and the last annual report. It's in case of a private company. In case of a university, you can always attach your list of publications or already the projects which you have done, that can be attached. Next, please. And then it gives you like who are you, what is the mandate of the university mandates is always the teaching and research, like but when we apply for, like I'm doing a project, a seed project, that's a societal need project, and in that project it's open to NGOs, it is open to other societies. So uh, the funding agency is looking for the mandate. It's not only the research is not the only mandate for a lot of funding agency. They can look for whether you are working for some you are working for an NGO, or you can working for some which kind of problem you are working. You are doing it for a pure research orientation, or you are going for some commercial orientation. So the mandate should be clearly mentioned. And then history and significant interventions, your track record, expertise in this area, organization structure, major sources of support. Like suppose, as I told you initially also, you are writing for a proposal, and like suppose I'm writing a TechIP gives a seed grant. Like we are giving under TechIP, we are giving some seed grant. So that seed grant is basically for the purpose that you can establish small facilities, and then you can approach the higher funding agencies for that source. So you should mention that when once you are approaching a funding agency for support, that yes, I have built a small infrastructure using our TechIP seed grant, and now I need. So that gives a strength. It doesn't lower down, but it gives a strength to your proposal that yes, you have some established some lab, you have done some background before you are approaching us. You should give affiliations, accreditations, and so other things. Next, please. And then comes to the background. Who took the initiative? Does the project fix into the existing development plan of the program? So a lot many things, because writing, when you write the background, like I told you about one of my projects wherein I started working on water pollution and the stubble burning. So I saw first initially, जैसे आप भूमिका बनाते हो ना किसी भी, once you start telling a story, you always अगर if you remember, या बचपन में जब हम बच्चों को कोई स्टोरी सुनाते हैं ना, हम पहले पूरी भूमिका बनाते हैं कि ऐसा हुआ था, ऐसा हुआ था, ऐसा हुआ था, then you come to the defining कि क्या ऐसा, फिर उनको आप स्टोरी, you have to make a proper background, a logical background of the proposal. Like I told you, for my proposal, we made a logical background that yes, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and out of that background, I selected the problem. So you have background is basically uh, from where your problem has originated. So you have to give a background of that. You have to give what do I say, like you have to you have to give lot, because background is not a very specific thing. Once we went from the background, once you identify a problem, that is a specific thing. But a background is a more of a broad thing, wherein you have to identify your problems. So, and then like it can be what studies have been done to prepare this project. Like we were say I'm working on what do I say, um export promotion of say fulkari. So if I'm working on that export promotion of fulkari, so I have what the background should be. There are so many art forms available here, and that is a dying art because of because people are not getting enough remuneration of when they are when they are making these fulkaris. So a lot of that's the background, and then you identify what is your problem, and then you start you make the problem statement, which is the next step. So background is basically a broad idea about what you have, what are the what thought process has gone into the project. Next, please. And some of the tips are: the project arises from beneficiaries or the local partners, and then the local context should be known very well if you are working on any local problem. So the local context should be known thoroughly, and you have the experience needed to run the project successfully. That's very important. You have to give in the background, like as I told you, if we are working on a problem of air pollution, so I have to, in the problem statement, I have to mention that yes, there exists this there's a lot of industries nearby, and they are emitting these gases. And apart from that, we are working on for last so many years we are working on that, so that we have expertise to cater to these problems. It is always beneficial, and you have been successful before. Next, please. And then, as I told you, from the background you identify the problem statement, and that is very important, because your whole objectives are based on your problem statement. Until unless you formulate the problem statement, just a second, मुझे आपसे बाद में बात करूंगी, मैं लेक्चर में हूँ. So your objectives will depend upon the problem statement. Once until unless you are able to identify a apt, like the exact problem you are working on, because as I told you, that you should not leave any problems unsolved, as I have told you previously. So until unless you identify your problem precisely, you are not able to work further, you're not able to identify your objectives. So unless the fund are convinced, so until unless you make a precise problem statement, an apt problem statement, the funding agency, it's just very difficult to convince the funding agency, yes, this is the problem and you are working on that. So the good problem statement should be, it should be society based, it should concern people, be concrete and demonstrated. It should not like until unless nowadays funding agency, they totally look for a sustainable sustainable solution, and a problem which is like we are facing so much um, air pollution problems in Delhi. So that is a major problem, pollution all the funding agencies are looking for. The COVID was a major is still a major problem, where all the funding, like initially you see in the COVID time, people have written all kind of projects, and most of the 99% of the problems were funded, the projects were funded. Anybody who had worked on any idea on COVID, they have got the project. So it is basically how do they presented the problem, because that was a great problem at that time. So it depends upon whether it's concerned people or not, and it's concrete, and it has been demonstrated. It should be a solvable problem. You can write a problem, yes, there is a so much of I mean something is happening in space, and then so on and so forth, but ultimately that is not a solvable problem. So you should identify in a particular project, because it's a time bound project, so you should focus on a solvable problem which you can solve within your stipulated period of time, and it comes from a demand only. If because there is a lot of, as I told you, for COVID, it was demand driven, so that is why most of the projects, they got the funding, and it be emergency or priority, as already mentioned in the COVID situation. Next, please. And then you should describe the scope and size of the problem. Scope and size, I mean, uh, for example, you are working on a problem which is a very local problem, like I'm living in Chandigarh in sector 11. So whether it's a problem which is pertaining to only people of sector 11, like there's a parking problem in sector 11, so is it a problem which concerns the funding agency? No. But if you talk of rising population or rising parking problem in Chandigarh, or because of that parking, what are the other issues which crop up, like the ambulance, they don't, because of a lot of traffic jam, the ambulance do not get the space to go. So that becomes a more pertinent problem. So if you focus on such a, like, if you focus only on your department, only your sector, that will never catch eyes of, like, that will be never a priority problem for the funding agency, until and unless you try to present it as a problem uh, which is a which has a more which has more which involves more number of people. So size of the problem should be bigger, size and gravity of the problem should be more, and what is the immediate causes of that, and what are the underlying causes, what are the effects, how does it affect people, is it affecting the health of the people, or is it affecting um, it's causing discomfort to people. So it depends upon what kind of effects it is creating, and how does it affect people, why does it has to be addressed, why not, what is the urgency of the problem, why can't it be done next year, right? So that is why, until unless you make it application oriented, if you are doing basic research which has no application, you just want to you want to functionize something, and it's a basic research, so always the funding agency will say why we should give money to you now, because we have more priority areas where we need to give in funding. Why should we give you funding now, right? So you have to, once you are writing a problem statement, you have to show the gravity as well as the urgency of that problem, right? Next. And then goals and objectives. Again, these are very important in a project. It should be, because it should be a long term goal, and the the point wise objectives. So goals are basically describe the long term goals of the project you will contribute to. Like I'll be contributing towards the problem of stubble burning in Punjab. I'll be contributing towards the water treatment in Punjab. I'll be contributing towards the health of the crops in Punjab. So that's a long term goal. But objectives are more specific. You take each and every, like, how you are going to achieve that goal, that will be in the objectives, and describe the project in response to the core problem and the expected results, and which just give you the outcomes and the concrete results of your project. Next. And then the objective should be smart. I think those who are from management, they should understand what are the smart objectives. Anybody who knows about smart objectives? Have you heard of these smart objectives? Anyone? Anyone can tell me about smart objectives? Would you like to speak on these smart objectives? What are smart objectives? No one? Okay. So these are more specific. That means the problem which you have identified, they should be pertaining to those. They should be measurable, because most of the 99%, like especially if you approach a international funding agency, or if you approach a funding agency which is giving you a bigger project, they always ask for the measurable. Like, if you have proposed this, how are you going to measure how much you have achieved? And how, like, and at every stage, it is not like once you do the complete the project and then you say, yes, I have achieved 70% objective. No, they now a funding agency, they are asking for stepwise achievement of your each and every objective, and what are the activities involved, and how are you going to achieve the objectives. Like, for each objective there is a separate table, that how, what are the activities involved in this objective, and how you are going to measure whether you have achieved this objective or not. And then it should be acceptable by all the involved partners. You are writing a project, but you propose certain activities wherein wherein you do not have, you have 2 or 3 PIs, but like, I'm working on a project, I'm making super hydrophobic cellulose fibers and for antimicrobial activities. Now I have proposed these objectives, but I do not know. Just a second. मैं आपको लेक्चर चल रहा है मैम, आपको बाद में करूँ कॉल? हाँ, I'll call you. So it should be acceptable by it cannot be, it should be so I should involve a biotechnologist for doing the biological studies, because we don't have that expertise. If I forcibly ask one of the PIs, you should have to do that, so nobody will be agreeing for that. So it should be acceptable, and then it should be relevant to the proposed project, and it should be timely. Means the objective which I have set should be able to be implemented within the stipulated time of the project. Next, please. And then clearly identify direct and indirect beneficiaries. That is very important. Once you are once you are listing the beneficiaries, it can be like I told you in the beginning, it can be general public, it can be the research organizations, it can be, these can be the stakeholders also, and they can be the beneficiaries also. They can be students, they can be general public, there can be parents, they can be any group which is involved. But you should identify those beneficiaries, and what is it, whether it's a direct or indirect benefit, or how many beneficiaries are there, where are these beneficiaries located, what are the characteristics of these beneficiaries. For more mainly, if you write societal projects in seed, there they have a very you have to identify each and every, you have to give the number, and after the project they will ask you how many, what is the reach of your project, how many, whether you had mentioned these number of beneficiaries, whether you have been actually able to reach those beneficiaries or not. So some funding agencies are very rigorous about the choice of beneficiaries, because they check before and the start of the and the end of the project, whether the benefits have reached the beneficiaries or not, and specify how, at what stage they will be involved in the project, whether they will be involved in the formulation stage, or when you are going to test your something you have developed, a catalyst you have developed, and then it will be checked. And then the proposed methodology. So again, the contents, it should be proposed methodology means how you are going to achieve achieve the objectives which you have proposed. What are the steps will be, what are the reactions involved, what are the steps you will be taking. So all these you have to give in the methodology. What kind of surveys you are going to do, what are the activities which you are going to propose. So all these, they need to be included in the proposed methodology. Next. And then it should give you clearly divide. This is very important because nowadays, even the not only the projects but even the publications, if you submit an article manuscript in a good high impact publication, even in the publication they ask what, like if you have 5 authors, they will ask you what work has been done by each author. So similarly, in a project, we should clearly mention that which partner, which PI or co-PI is going to do what. Suppose I have an expertise in making synthesizing. My co-PI has expertise in modification. Third, the co-PI has expertise in application. So I have to involve each and every co-PI and include that in the methodology, and write it how these things are going to work, how each and every partner is going to work, and what will be the synergy between the partners, at what stage the information will be shared between the partners, and what, like, and who will review, the lead scientist, who is the lead scientist, and who is going to review work done by each partner. So that's very important in the methodology. Like in all the international projects, they ask you to segregate the work done by, because the budget is allocated according to the activities which are being performed by each partner. And then this is also important because the track record, or the publications, or the expertise of the partner, that makes a lot of difference. Next. Next. Yeah, project implementation. Sorry, can you go to the previous one? Yes. Now what will be done, how it will be done, by whom it will be done, where, when. So it has to be precise. You should give, but you should not, one thing, you should not give too much details in the methodology, because sometimes I've reviewed certain projects where the people start writing all the reaction involved in a particular this thing, and then each and every step, that this will be done at this temperature, this will be done at this temperature. You don't need to mention all these at, because this is only a proposed project proposal. You are not writing a paper, you are writing a proposal. So you should not mention all these very very tiny details in the project. It should be a broad, but yes, it should include everything, but not, you should not go into petty details of each activity. Next. And then you should, I think most of you know about the PERT chart and the Gantt charts. Are you aware of the PERT charts and the Gantt charts? Hmm? Are you aware of that, the PERT charts? Hmm? Anyone can tell me about the PERT chart? Navdeep, are you there?
Yeah, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is anybody there? Because nobody is responding. It seems that I don't know. I like somebody to talk, but nobody is responding. It's okay. Then let me go further.
I know, ma'am. I know the Gantt chart and pie charts and all. Whatever you're telling, got your, ma'am. Got your.
I think because there must be some people from management also, no? So they
Yes,
have
ma'am.
done.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, they
So
have done the.
they've done the PERT charts and Gantt charts, no?
Yes, ma'am. PERT and Gantt chart, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So nowadays, like most of the funding agencies, they ask you to prepare the Gantt chart because that gives you the exact the sequence of activities and how much with how much time each activity will take and logical sequence of activities. So that is why we prepare the Gantt charts. So it's always better if you, although the funding agencies ask, but if even if they do not ask, I think we should give that Gantt chart because that's make the project more impressive. Next, please. And then yes, then you should also give the risk and assumptions because sometimes risks and assumptions means I'll give you about like one of my projects I was working on microwave synthesis of nanoparticles. So in that project I asked for 12 lakh rupees, but the funding agencies they sanctioned me 6 lakhs. So I could not buy a microwave synthesizer in that. So the whole logic of the project went like because my proposal was based on microwave synthesis, and when the equipment was not sanctioned to me, how could I work on that? That is the biggest risk because sometimes the money does not come by from the funding agency. Sometimes the funding which is because although nowadays people are more like once you present the project during the presentation they ask you whether you need 5 equipments. They will give you okay, we give you 2, but then they give you full funding of the 2 asked. So sometimes the funding agency they do not give you the one. I require a major equipment, and the funding agency doesn't give me. Although they sanction the project, but they do not give me money for that equipment. So the whole my whole project idea is lost. So that's kind of a risk which is involved. Then that in that case, you have to see some alternate strategies also, like if if this thing happens, then I should be able to like I should be approach some outside agency to get my things done, some testing done, or I should I should propose an alternate way so that at least I am able to achieve the major objectives of the project. Okay. So assumptions are things that we're expecting to be in certain way, and so this is what I have talked about. Next, budget. Like most of the budget, those who have written the project, they know budget is given in different heads. The main is the human resource. Human resource, it can be a JRF, it can be an SRF, it can be a research assistant, it can be a research associate, it can be a PDF. So depending upon the nature of the work involved, it is the human resource and what are the responsibilities. Like if I have a project which involved mainly going here and there to collect the data, so I don't need a grf, I need a field worker in that. So depending upon the responsibilities of each person, and if it's a big project, I require a person to work in the lab, and I also require a person to assist the person who's working in the lab, or I require a person in accounts. So I need to identify the responsibilities, and depending upon that I should put the manpower budget. And then material resources, yes. What kind of what means in the sense what how much chemicals I require, how much contingency I require, how much equipment grant I require. So that should be properly specified. We should always that is because depending upon your objectives, I told you in the beginning that what resources you already have and what you are proposing in the project. On the basis of that, your budget will be prepared. Next. Next. Navdeep, can you go to the next one? How much time how much more time I have? How much time I have?
Ma'am, only 10 minutes are left, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I'll try to fast because I have to take some questions also, no? So budget, it is generally it's a budget spreadsheet and it's with explanation and justifications. Like uh, most of the funding agencies, if you are proposing some equipment or manpower or contingency or travel or anything else, they always ask for the justification. Suppose I have asked for three people, one JRF, one project assistant, and one field worker. So they will always ask me why you need this, whether you have this much work or not. Suppose I am getting a project and I already have 5 PhD students and I can get the project done from them. I don't require any manpower. So if I am proposing a one, then I have to give the justification. And then why I require this equipment, I'm asking for equipment worth 20 lakhs. So the funding agencies will always ask me that why do I require this project? Why, if I can it be done using some other equipment or some lower cost equipment or not? So they've always asked for justification. So until and unless you have a plan, action plan, so it's always better to prepare an action plan depending upon your objectives. Then you write the budget and don't inflate the budget, because most of the actually a lot of people think that if an equipment costs about 5 lakhs and you should keep 10 15 lakhs for the equipment, so that if this should not be done, because the reviewers who are sitting for your evaluating your project, they are not actually, they are the knowledgeable people, they are experts, so they know that this is not the actual budget of the equipment. So that sends a very negative impact about your project. So it should be more just, it should present a justifiable budget, more justified cost of the equipment. Carefully follow the funding agency's requirement. Yes, because that is important, because some funding agencies fund you project, like if you go to nano mission can, if you write a 2 crore project, they will fund you, they, depending upon whether the project is fundable or not, they will give you 2 crores. But if you apply CSIR, they will not give you more than 15 lakhs. If you send a proposal of worth rupees 1 crore and the maximum budget, their funding limit is 15 lakhs, so they will reject your proposal. So you have to see the funding agency, what is the requirement of the funding agency before you make the budget, and divide your budget into years. Yes, well, that is always asked by the funding agency. And mostly the equipment budget is given in the first year, and because so that by this because it takes time to procure the equipment, so that by the end of the project you are able to procure it and use it. Next. And then monitoring, evaluation, whether your project activities monitoring is just required, because to check whether it can be because the funding agency, they always ask you, it's not like they have given you money and they forget it. No, they will always ask you after 1 year, they will ask you, they will evaluate the project. After some 2 years, they will evaluate the project, and then they will, some funding agencies like CSIR, they also evaluate the project once you have finished it, and that goes into their record. So because once you like if your track record is good, when you are applying next time for the funding, they will always check whether the previous project has been satisfactorily completed or not. And evaluation assess whether your project is efficient, effective, impact, relevant, and sustainable. So what will be should be checked, whether what will be monitored, who will monitor that, how often will be the monitoring, whether it's 6 monthly progress, whether it's a month, whether it's a yearly progress, whether it's a quarterly progress. So you have to see how often, how frequently the evaluation is done, and which tools and methods will be used for evaluation. Next. And this is, as in the beginning I told you, most of the funding agencies are looking for the sustainability. So that is the most important aspect. If I'm developing a catalyst in a project, it should be sustainable. If I'm developing a technology, it should be sustainable. It's both, like it should be a financial sustainable, social cultural sustainability. In the sense, it is acceptable. People will accept, like you uh, design something, a technology. Suppose you just design something which comes from, say, you use a oil and you use a fish oil. So most of the people, it's not acceptable. Then there'll be social cultural issues that this is made up of this, we cannot use this. So it depends. The It should be social cultural sustainability also. Technical, yes, obviously it should be technically sustainable. It should be whatever the technology you have developed, whether people will be going to buy it or not, whether will be people are going to take it or not. So that is meant by sustainability. And because the funding agency, they want to, nowadays, like if you approach a funding agency, they will always, like initially, when we used to go to funding agency, we used to write that yes, we'll get 2 patents out of this project. Now that's not digestible. They will ask, what will you do, what will be with the patents, whether that patent will be commercialized or not, whether it will be used for public interest or not. So this is the aspect they are looking in sustainability. So whether the money they are giving, that will be, it will not be lost. So that is the major aim why they check for sustainability. Next. Annexures, like there are a lot of things which can be, it's not necessary that you make annexures, but sometimes you want to, suppose I'm writing a project and in the whole, above 10 points, there's no point of where should I mention of my previous work, because that is the that shows my credibility. So I can put it in annexures and mention it properly in this. And the some of these in the project formats is always a column, any other uh, important item you want to, any other important information you want to give. So that can be included there, or it can be put in annexures. Some previous studies you have done. Suppose I'm proposing a project, and I want to work, probably in the first phase I could work on limited number of issues, and I want to extend that project. So the previous studies which are already reported or already published, I can put them in the annexures. So this is mainly, it has maps, glossaries, that policy documents, proof of registration in case it's a society, it's a grant like that. It can be financial statements, board of directors, funding agencies, and annual reports. So many things which cannot be included. There's no column in the main project. You can include that in the annexures or appendices. Next, I think that is complete. Next. Yes, it is uh, something crucially important which is not included in the proposal. You can put it there, table of contents, or sometimes the data is like that, it is cannot be adjusted in the project. You can put it there. So, and you have to number the appendixes, like give it small letters or give it Roman numerals. It should not be in continuation with the numbering of the project. Next. Next. uh, uh, yes, and then the final check. You should ask an expert outside the project team to read the proposal before sending it to whom you rely upon. Like there are certain senior people whom I can show the project, because sometimes we have a bias. Those people who are already working on the project, they always have a bias. You cannot make out the mistakes in the project. So it's always for final check. We should ask somebody whom you trust outside the project team to see the proposal, and whether uh, because that will give you will get an outsider's view regarding the project. That will give you an unbiased suggestions. You can always ask for unbiased suggestions before you submit the proposal. So that is the final check. So that's all what I want to say. If there are any questions, I can take these questions.
Yes, any question from participant side? Ma'am, I guess there are no questions. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your interactive and informative session. It was a good session, and it's really a pleasure for us that you were there for this session. I am very thankful to you, ma'am, and we will be hoping that in coming future, we will be having more sessions with you, as we have tomorrow your session in the morning. So would be expecting some more session from your side. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a request for all the participants that we are having a break and we'll join the session at 3:35.
This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Dr. Navdeep Kaur. Am I reaching you? Am I audible?
अनम्यूट की तो मैम इतना ही बोल लेंगे ना
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, Dr. Kartika. Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible to you? Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
वहाँ से कॉलिंग लगा दो सुन नहीं रहा Yes, good afternoon, Dr. Kartika. Ma'am, am I audible to you?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible to you?
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Very good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
We can't hear you, ma'am. Ma'am, some connectivity issues there, ma'am. We can't hear you now.
Ma'am, we are not. She's not audible, ma'am.
We conveyed this.
This conference will now be recorded.
Dr. Kartika VK is an assistant professor of English in Department of Humanities and Social Science at NIT Trichy. She earned her master degree in TESOL studies from the Universities of Leeds, United Kingdom, after a master's in English and comparative literature from Pondicherry Central University. She worked in England as an ESOL instructor and assessor for ESOL examination from 2009 to 2011 and conducted studies related to language acquisition, cultural adoption, and professional needs of English instructors. During the 4 years she spent in England as a student and a teacher, she gained insights into the challenges encountered by language learners and potential remedies that resolve them and polish her understanding of a multicultural, multilingual, and multi-ethnic learning and teaching scenario. She obtained her doctorate in English language education from the English and Foreign Language University, Hyderabad. Her teaching philosophy is deeply rooted in her belief that education must be an agent of transformation by enabling its stakeholders to activate social and emotional learning, thus building a better humanity. She offers lectures and sessions on aviation English, translation and critical discourse analysis, public speaking skills, continuing professional development and teaching and learning strategies. We welcome you, ma'am, for this session. Ma'am, you're not audible again. Ma'am, we can't hear you.
Thank you very much for that extensive kind of introduction. Thank you indeed. May I now share the screen, please? Am I reaching you? Just pick them. I don't know.
Ma'am, you can do one thing. You can log in with your mobile phone and you can forward the PPT on Dr. Navdeep's mail ID. We will play the slide from here and you can log in from your mobile.
I don't know if I'm reaching you. Am I reaching you? My voice reaching you?
This conference will now be recorded.
Ma'am, you can share your screen now.
Yeah. I'm just saying it. Uh, I don't know what happened. It was all working well. Just this. I had a try. Everything was so smooth. We just trying to share it. Just I have to.
No sound, ma'am.
No idea. Like it's taking a little while. I could log again. I
One
could
thing, ma'am.
actually log again.
This
EC,
conference will
CSC,
now
whatever
be recorded.
whatever area you come from. Thank you for sharing the screen, madam. Thank you for sharing the screen. I'm on to the second slide, which is argumentation. Could you please move to that?
Yeah, I'll continue. Just to save the time. So what I was telling you is that once the self-directedness of a learner is active, he or she will make decisions on himself or herself for different choices that he has to make or she has to make in learning. And this will eventually create autonomous learners. And the purpose of any education is to generate autonomous learners, or to encourage and to foster learner autonomy. Okay, one way to promote self-directedness and thereby the learner autonomy is to promote critical thinking skills. So all of you will be familiar with the new education policy that is in place, and it emphasizes a lot on the importance of higher order thinking skills. But then this is a time platform how far we are affecting beyond the systems, and how we actually foster it. This is a question. Another way to collaboration is a learner teacher collaboration. So professional, so that part of we do collaborate most self-directed. Related active from Bloom's taxonomy for classroom transactions. I'm very sure that all of you know what is Bloom's taxonomy. It's a very important kind of thinking pattern that we have to, all teachers have to use in our classrooms for transactional purposes, for interactional purposes, and also for making question papers, for assessment, conducting assessment, to shoot questions like to enable them to think critically. For all these purposes, we need to use Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, and I have divided the session like this. This is immaterial actually, because I've covered it. The last thing in blue you can read, thesis statement, is that learners have to be equipped with the skills to develop autonomy so that they can take charge of their own learning, which I have already mentioned. I'll skip a few of the definitions of self-directed learning. Um, just to connect the first part of my title with the last part of my title, I would like you to go through this. This is by a Holocaust survivor who was a child psychologist as well, a teacher by profession, a psychologist later by profession, a doctorate holder, Haim Junot. Um, who went through the torturing of Adolf Hitler and Adolf Eichmann. Okay, please read through it. It says, it's like a poem. It says, "Dear teacher, I am a survivor of a concentration camp. My eyes saw what no man should witness. Gas chambers built by learned engineers, children poisoned by educated physicians, infants killed by trained nurses, women and babies shot and burned by high school and college graduates. So I am suspicious of education. My request is, help your students become human. Your efforts must never produce learned monsters, skilled psychopaths, educated Aikmans. Reading, writing, arithmetic are important only if they serve to make our children more human. Written in 1972, I believe as a teacher and as a human being, the significance of these lines are increasing every single day, because you see things that you shouldn't see. I mean, nobody should actually see. Even now, you go back to the Delhi Nirbhaya case, where it was the large portion of him in the classroom, and that's how we get hold of him. Very open that and ethical perspectives into their heads. Okay, moving to the next slide. Meant by I don't know what we could have seen the chat. I mean, you could have put something in the chat box. Let me just try that. Could someone please tell me what is meant by being educated? What do you mean by being educated? I'm just waiting for the response. Okay, I'll proceed of education. Being humanity is most important part of learning and teaching. This may sound a bit utopian kind of ideology, but if you think through it, all the teaching of physics, all the teaching of mathematics, all the teaching of electronics and communication engineering or computer science engineering or whatsoever becomes so redundant if you produce a learned monster at the end of the day. And those kind of people forming the next Indian generation or next generation of India is tough to witness. So our role as teachers, our role as educators is much bigger. So what is teaching is the question that I would like to ask. Could you please move the slides to the, I mean, move the slides. Yeah, I have posed a question again for a reflection, and I had some other platform called Nearpod to get your views as well, but nothing is working as of now. So I'm just turning on the lecture mode and talking to you today. So teaching should be like there's Am I audible to you? Can somebody please respond whether I'm reaching you or not?
Ma'am, you are now audible. Now audible you are.
Okay, fine. I don't know how far you have heard me. Um, I was talking about being kind and being compassionate in teaching, and I'm moving on to, onto a poem that is written by the same person. Okay, um, and then we will talk about the important aspects that influences our teaching. I have come to a frightening conclusion. I am the decisive element in the classroom. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It is my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or whether will be, you know, or try it is my or decalated and a child humanized or dehumanized. So this is the philosophy of teaching that we all should lose. This couple of slides you picture of a crow. If you move slides to a slides further, you can see the crow waiting at the near the video media apps for such a big on, because this crow wanted to actually break that. So it was waiting at a traffic point, and it observed when the vehicles stop, vehicles as well as the signal, and then it goes and it keeps the walnut in front of the window. The signal light appears, it flies the walnut back. Way of showcasing skills. Okay? So this is the end means of it. Students have to God. I know one university, the who was all through the semesters, but then he never knew how to design after a man. And so that we thing is not known to this. What mean by education? Such a simple students. So you will think that I'm a physics faculty, I'm demand draft. You talk about everything under the sun, but then contextually, we will have to equip them with life skills. And more than parents, we are connected to the students because we spend most of the time in the classrooms. We may think of them as monsters, especially sometimes I too feel so embarrassed by the way the students treat us or the way the students behave in the classroom. But it doesn't mean that then I just keep thinking about, if that was my child, my approach would be different. So we have to think from a very kind of perspective, to solve their issues. See, these are the skills required for a 21st century learner developed by Cambridge University. This has been developed solve. There are 5K. There are two types of actually consolidate helps thinking to 21st. First one is thinking and learning skills. Century learner. And second, it is social and emotional skills. If we had the giving, know that this is just to refresh your memory with
So participants, ma'am is facing some technical glitches. She will be sharing her recorded session and we will share that recorded session in the group. So now we will meet at tomorrow morning at 9:30. Thank you so much for waiting and thank you so much for attending the lectures. Okay, see you.